I'm turning you off. Right click. Where you at?
I'm here. I need you to. Here, let me say something.
I don't see anything.
Do you see the chat room?
I see it now. Yep. Hi, Tegan.
Okay, right-click on my name and make me moderator.
All right, there you are. Click on your name. That's not working.
Right click.
Oh, I see this. Add moderator. All right, we're waiting. We're waiting. We're waiting.
Okay.
So how we doing? We're gonna rock. How's it look? Is it too white? Am I too ghosty? Why am I thinking you're going to answer me? All right, we're going to get started. This is my maiden voyage of QuickStart Guitar Live. So the things that I want to be doing with QuickStart Guitar Live is each week we tackle a different subject. Each week, subject matter also can be, you can chime in and say, this is what I want to check out. This is what I want to learn. But each week is a different subject matter, and I'm going to address it. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to, you're going to have papers, like attachments, that you can check out, and you're going to level up your playing in the result. So the next thing that I want to do with this is say it can be any subject: electric, acoustic guitar, any kind of guitar nerd stuff. Okay, when I say guitar nerd stuff, I want to bring back the guitar nerd. Okay, guitar nerds, you get funny when you hear Jimi Hendrix, like that kind of stuff. And you went, how do I do that? How do I make that sound? What is he thinking when he uses those notes and all that kind of stuff? So today, what we're going to talk about first is music theory. And before we even get into any music theory, the question arises, why music theory at all? Because one of my students, I asked him the question, what about music theory? Because it makes music boring. So if it's not make music boring, if you study theory that has nothing to do with the music that you create or you like, then it's going to be boring. So everything that we're going to learn is going to be what I refer to as applied music theory. What applied music theory is we're going to use this into making real sounds, any kind of style. Today we're going to focus on rock and the major scale. That is the title of this lesson. Rock and the major scale. So what a major scale is, let's start with what a major scale is. The major scale is a pattern of whole steps, which is 2 fret distance, and half steps. If you go whole, half, whole, half on your guitar, whole step, half step, whole step, half step. That gets you the sound of a major scale every time. Now, more importantly, and probably more easily, it sounds like do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Okay? You've heard this scale before, and a lot of times when you're taught it, like I remember when I was taught it in grade school, it was always songs that I didn't really care for, and it was like I always associated these kinds of things with music that wasn't mine. So what we're going to do here today is we're going to talk about the major scale in ways in which we can apply it to rock, and we can apply it to chord progressions, and we can apply it to arranging, and what happens, a little bit of jam application and figuring songs out. The major scale and understanding a little bit of theory behind it will help you with that. So first things first, I hope your guitar is in tune. I can't tell. But anyway, we're going to start with the G note. When I play a G note and I go whole step, half step, followed by 3 whole steps, that is a major scale. And it sounds like a major scale. So it's do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Now, what the lead guitar player would do with that is he would try to play that probably a lot of times in one position. So it would be something like this. Okay? Now, what we're going to do with this, is we're going to discuss how we can use the sound of that scale and that scale to understand punk rock, to understand basic rock and roll, to understand popular music, pop music, not just popular music, but pop music. I think there's probably a difference. Everything we listen to is popular, not everything we listen to is pop. So anyway, with that said, first thing I want you to do, we're going to take the major scale that I just played. I want you to play your second finger on the G note on your low E string, which is your 3rd fret. So I'm just going to play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and that's all I want you to do for right now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, the big thing in music theory to make sense out of all this is what is called the numbering system. The numbering system is a system of understanding chord progressions that it is the basis of Berklee College of Music. It is the basis also for the National Recording Studio system. Also, Muscle Shoals, where so much R&B, Southern rock, and that kind of stuff was recorded. These musicians understood the numbering system. You will understand the numbering system, and what we will do is we'll apply it to some basic progressions. So essentially, for our purposes, what the numbering system is I have those first 5 notes of the major scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I root power chords off of that, because what we're doing is rocking, so this is going to be your 1 chord, your 2 chord, your 3, your 4, your 5. All right, so that is your numbering system. So then the deal is, right now, if that's what we're, that still sounds like music theory. That doesn't sound like music. The way chord progressions work is we're not going to play all the notes. What we're going to do is we're going to play, like a common progression would be 1 to 4. When I say 1 to 4, if this is my 1 chord, my G, if that's my 1 chord, 4 is always going to be there. If this is my 1 chord, 4 is always going to be there. So 4 is right there. Now, a little bit about practicing scales. Now, as lead guitar players want to do, they practice scales so they can do all the dweedly stuff. What songwriters and rhythm guitar players should do is learn the patterns, learn the numbering system patterns that are of common progressions. So, for example, let's play 1 to 4 in the key of G. Well, how do I play in the key of G? Key of G is going to be, I start on a G note. That's G. Then I go to 4. 1, 4. All right, so that is your 1 to 4. Now, okay, so now this is 1, this is 4, this is going to be 5. So the 1, the 4, and the 5 in a major key, those are what any music teacher would call primary chords. Okay? Why we're going to memorize them is because there's thousands and thousands of songs that have just your primary chords. Wow thing. Okay? You've heard many songs without me getting into it. So now, this is your 1, this is your 4, this is your 1, this is your 4. If that's your 4, your 5 is up 2 frets, and these are all power chords. Now, I'm guessing we all know what power chords are. Power chords are your root, and then I put my pinky down 2 frets away and 1 string down to play a power chord. Some people do this. I got small hands, so this is the way I do it. Whatever works for you. So this is your 1 chord, your 4 chord, your 5 chord. Okay, so now, just understanding that, we can do ridiculous amounts of cool stuff. For example, I'm playing in the key of, let's play in the key of A. Let's play 1, 4, 5 in the key of A. That is 1, 4, and 5. That is your 1, 4, 5 in the key of A. How did I do that? I just moved my pattern up to an A note, and then I went to the 4 chord right there, and then I went to the 5 chord. Okay? 1 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord. In the description of this live workshop, we have links for diagrams for this. So when this is all done, you can look at that. So now, so this is going to be your 1 chord, your 4 chord, your 5 chord. Lots and lots of songs have 1, 4, and 5. Or 1, 5, 4. Any combination. This is art. 1, 5, 4, 5. 1, 4, 5. 1, 5. All right. How do I do that in the key of B flat? I just move it up a half step. All right, next chord we're going to find, the next chord we're going to go over is the 6. The 6 is what we refer to as the relative minor. Okay? We get to the relative minor by going down 3 half steps. So if this is 1, go down 3 half steps, and that's your 6th chord of the same key. That's a really common progression. All right. So 1, 6, 1, 6. Now what I want to do, once you get used to that, and then again, if this is my 1, if the D right here is my 1, that's 6. If that's 1, this is 6. All right, and we want to be able to visualize that. The 6th chord, it has a pretty specific sound. All right, next, finding 1, 6, 4, 5. The 1, 6, 4, 5 progression. So how would I do that? Well, in the key of A. We'll keep it in the key of A. There's my 1. There's my 6. There's my 4. And then there's my 5. Okay, and that's a ridiculous amount of songs there. All right, now, one more progression with the 6. And this is a ridiculously, I keep saying ridiculously, very, very common progression, which is referred to as the 1, 5, 6, 4. So if I have a 1, 5, 6, 4, I know that this is 1 in the key of A. My 5 is here. If this is my 5, 6 is going to be a whole step up. And just get to the point where you can visualize that. So 1, 5, 6, 4. All right. So now 1, 5, 6, 4. Now, what you can do, because you're learning the numbering system, this is something that it makes it really, really easy to go in and out of different keys with ease. What I mean by that, keys with ease, say if I'm in the key of G major, that was the 1, 5, 6, 4. B major, it is a pattern. Okay. Next chord we're going to go into is going to be, we're going to check out the 2. Those are the primary chords. These were the primary chords. This was the relative minor. The 2 other minor chords of a major scale are the 2, like in the key of A. If we're in the key of A, 1, 2. 2 is going to be up from the root. It's going to be 1. 2 is going to be the next 2 frets higher. So 1, that would be a 1, 2, 4, 5 progression. Okay, and then the other minor chord, this is going to be minor. If we'll talk about expanding past the power chord after this. And then the other minor chord is going to be the 3. Okay, so in the key of A major, the 3 is going to be. So 1, 3, 4, 5. That's what that is. So here's my 1. There's my 3. There's my 6. 1, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. See, you start getting used to some of these patterns, and that helps you with the songwriting. That helps you. You can hear this in bands that use power chords, and I'll give you some suggestions. And I have given you some suggestions with one of the sheets that you have, the downloadable sheets. So now, one out of key chord we're going to talk about because it's really, really common. The one out of key chord is the flat 7 major chord. So if this is your root in the key of A, this is going to be your flat 7. All right. So now, all these different possibilities of chords. What you should do? What do I expect you to practice? Well, first of all, be able to play a power chord and make sure your guitar's in tune for next week. Next week, when you're practicing this, because the power chord is only 2 notes, if one of those 2 notes is not absolutely dialed in, then you're going to have problems. It's going to sound weird. Okay, so now the other thing is this gives you an opportunity to learn what your note names are. Okay, so if I start playing my patterns off of G, I can play in the key of G. Okay? But if I don't know that's a G note, then that doesn't help me. So, in the QuickStart Guitar book, which is the namesake of this video, so the QuickStart Guitar book, we have this very early on in the book, there is the fingerboard. So, the G is going to be there. Learn your notes on the E and A strings for next time. Learn your power chords. Check out some basic numbering patterns that I have written down for you in this lesson. All right. Now, the other thing is then start listening to music. Listening to music that you think has, like we talk about chord progressions. Let's consider chord progressions. I gave you in the in the notes for today's lesson. I gave you 2 sources of major key progressions. One was Green Day, ridiculous amounts of songs of theirs that's all this is, and then the other was the Beatles. Beatles usually wrote in major keys, and that's not to say that they didn't throw any curveballs, but a lot of their stuff's in major keys. So, but really anything that has it's in a major key, if it sounds, the major is that kind of a happier sound versus minor, which is something else. So anyway, so now for your homework, this idea of mining, listen to other people's recordings and try to figure out the chord progression. And it's like you hear this stuff. Power chords are very easy to hear. They take on a melody. So if I go da na 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 na, that's a melody. I find that melody. you can hear it pretty easily. So power chords are easy to hear. So listen to people that do it. And it doesn't have to be Green Day, it doesn't have to be the Beatles, a lot of pop music. A lot of music that doesn't even have guitar in it. It is not guitar specific. So do we have any questions? That is basically it for my my lesson today. So I wonder if there is any questions I can answer. Go ahead, fire away. At a future lesson, what we will do is we'll talk about playing melody over top of major progressions. And another thing, that your primary chords that were power chords, they become bar chords. Freddie says. Hello, Freddie says. So anyway, so everything that was 1, 4, 5, if you take it past the power chord, it becomes a bar chord. 6 is a minor chord. 2 is a minor chord. 3 is a minor chord. Flat 7 major. Okay, many songs. So what we will do, if you have any questions on any of this in future lessons, chime in, because if that's how this is going to work, this is going to be fun, because it's like I'm going to give you my spiel and then my lesson, and then you're going to say, hey, what does this mean? And I'm going to say, I'm going to answer that. Alrighty, that is it for this lesson. If you have any questions at all, check out me on Facebook, or some of you, I guess all of you have, all the ones here have my my phone number. So anyway, that is it. Alrighty, see you later.